operating. So I'm happy about that.
Welcome to another episode of Paranormal the New Normal. I'm your host, as always, Jeremy, trying to bring a little more normalcy to this world, which these days, as I always say, is just impossible sometimes. But we're trying. And my guest tonight, I am very happy to find her. Another one of my Podmatch finds,
Mhm.
podmatch.com, not a sponsor, but you could be. My guest is Scarlet Poretta, an intuitive psychic medium, and I believe also a manifestation coach, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's
But
a
I'll let her
whole
tell you
topic
more about
for
that.
another time.
But I'll let her tell you about that. Scarlett, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, Jeremy. It's so nice to be here, and I thank you so much for the invite. And yes, thanks to Podmatch, I'm loving it because I get to meet great people like you that are doing incredible work. And I have to say that I love the name of your podcast, Paranormal, the New Normal, because it is normal and it has become normal. Once upon a time, it was not so much, but today it is.
Which we may get into that in a second, because the first question on this show, always, unless I get distracted, is what got you into the paranormal slash spiritual world? What brought you to this?
Well, that's a great question. I think I speak for most of us when I say I got called and I got pulled into it. I mean, as a child, you have some interesting experiences, and you think about it, it's like weird. Nobody else sees it, and you just keep going. And I just found the universe kept pulling me towards it. And finally, I commenced doing this as a career and helping others. I did not set out like I went to university. My thing as a kid was, oh, I can't wait to grow up and be an intuitive medium that's clairaudient. I didn't set out to do this, and oh, I'm going to do paranormal investigations. This is something that I firmly believe I was called to do, and the reason why I say that is I was actually at one of my girlfriend's shops, and at that time I was just a customer, and her psychic, it was a Saturday, her psychic called in sick, and she's like, I can't be open on a Saturday without a psychic. And she says, Scarlett, I need you. I need you to fill in. And I said, well, I'm not a psychic. She says, yes, you are. I said, no, I'm not. Yes, you are. And we went back and forth like kids. And then finally I thought, what the heck? She's in distress. And I figured what could go wrong. So let me just ease her mind and say, yes, I'll sit there. And I thought, who's going to come in to get readings? Well, Jeremy, lo and behold, I had about 5 people come in. I didn't logically, I didn't think I knew what I was doing. I thought the Saturday had come and gone. That was it. I'm done. And during the week, she calls me up and she says, Scarlett, there's a huge demand for you. I have to put you on the schedule. And that's how it all started. And the rest is it just naturally organically flowed into this direction. I don't do any advertising, and yet people know me worldwide. So it's been an interesting ride. Let's put it that way. But I believe that there's a calling.
There definitely is, and I've talked about it on this show before, but I mean, every time I talk to psychic memes in this show, and it hasn't yet this episode, but it might,
Right,
I
right,
always get a little tingly feeling in the middle of my head, and it's like something is. And I talked to someone when I was doing an interview Monday night, and she
right.
said the same thing. She's like, that's your guardian spirit trying to contact you and trying to get in touch with you, but
Yeah.
I just I'm not at the stage yet where they can, and I'm trying to get there. It's taking time, but I'm trying to get there, and I don't know. She said I should start meditating, but I've never been one for meditation.
Yeah, me
There's just
neither.
there's just too much to do.
Yeah. You know what? Everyone's a little different. And I call those the spidey senses. When you get that tingling, it's like, how else do you explain it? I call it the spidey senses. And when the only way that you can honor it is just by you get the spidey senses. Okay, well, what is it attempting to say to me? And that's it. And quite frankly, Jeremy, it just will very naturally develop when you're ready. Like they know more than we do. I I just allowed the whole process, and I strongly recommend you or anybody else experiencing these spidey senses to do the same.
Well, as a comic book fan for the last 20 years almost, and a Spider-Man fan since I was like 3, I 100% love that name for that, and I might start using that.
Go for it.
Only because I know you don't have it copyrighted, so
No,
yay. But,
no, I'm not even going to try to pretend. No. And you know what? Why? I mean, we're here to learn. We're here to, we walk this earth together. So we're here to be of support to each other. So I would be delighted if you used it. Just don't forget me.
I won't, and actually, that might be the name of this episode right there, my spidey sense is tingling, but
Oh,
we'll see. I come up with usually, like, 5 names I have to pick between them, but
oh, what a riot.
so you've been to the paranormal since you were young, and
Yeah.
you developed this gift just naturally, like most people in your line of work do. They develop it naturally when they're younger or when they're in their teenager, and it just slowly comes to them.
Hmm.
And was there any moment in your life when you were younger that just you were able to use it for something so good, like so great that it was like a great achievement, and that's when you realized this is something special?
I don't know about it being so great, but there were interesting things like where you get messages that if people listen, because that's the other thing too. If they don't listen, that's a tough thing. But I was able to predict when family members were going to pass, which is something that I haven't really normally done, which is interesting. But I recall we went through a couple of years where we had a lot of family members passing, and this gentleman who now today I understand is my grandfather. He would show up, and I just knew, there was just a knowing that, okay, he's giving me a heads up that someone else is going to pass. And so I was able to prepare people, family members, that something else is going to happen. Now, I mean, you got to handle these messages with sensitivity. It's like you don't say, "Oh, this man in a black hat showed up and someone else is going to die." You never want to do any of these, those types of messages. It's just, okay, there's a knowing, and now you handle it with, with grace, to say, okay, I think we need to brace ourselves because I kind of feel like so and so is being called next, to the other side. So there is that. There is a lot of experiences as a medium, in channeling, people's loved ones. There have been a lot of moments that I feel grateful that I could give someone peace and clarity, like mothers who have question marks around how their children passed away. And I'm able to bring, I'm able to bring them that clarity and information. And in a lot of cases, validation. There was one case in particular, and the reader is from Scotland, and the son had taken his life, unfortunately. And the police just kept trying to bury it as an unexplained or whatever. And she needed that closure. She really needed that closure. And nobody was giving it to her until she had a conversation with me. And then there was another one where I actually was doing a podcast, and this one I have to say was one of the ones that warmed my heart recently. And he's an ex sergeant, and his partner came through, and we're just chit chatting before the show, and I had just said to him, like, does this name resonate with you? I don't know why I feel this name keeps popping in, because I'm not formally doing a reading. And that small little message gave him such peace and closure, and his whole family peace and closure. So it's, I really, when, I'm not grateful that people have lost, people that they care for.
Of course not.
I am grateful for that ability to connect with those loved ones and give the person here in the living, that peace, that clarity, that validation, that closure that they're craving. So yeah, lots of little things like that, little, you know but not to the person I'm reading.
I mean, they say all the time, this being a psychic medium is like a double-edged sword, because you get to help people, but you also have to feel the sadness they feel at all times. And I mean, there's a reason a lot of psychics are turn to not so good things after a while because they just can't handle it all. The strong ones prevail as always, and they help people for years and years to come. And I I used to be one of those people who didn't believe in psychics and thought they were all just after money, but from doing this podcast for the last 6 months almost, it's
Right.
just got to the point where I fully believe in psychics and mediums, and not one I've had in the show do I think they're phonies. Like everyone I've
Right.
had in the show, I get a feeling from, and I could tell they're doing what they are supposed to do in this world. So
Yeah.
it's a great thing.
And I really appreciate, I have to say thank you for you acknowledging that on, like not just for myself, but, all psychics out there, because we do get haunted by, some of the things that we see. And then you cannot, of course, relay that message. There's one that I have, and I will never forget what I've seen or heard. It was a young girl, 16 years old, who took her life. And it still haunts me today, how she communicated with me. Of course, I didn't say that. I didn't represent it the exact same way to the mother. And you carry that in your heart. You really do. And there are people that turn to, listen, sometimes I turn to food. I'm not gonna lie.
Hey, I mean, I'm accomplice of that too, and I'm not a psychic even. So I mean,
You know,
that's just
but
a
it's
human that's just a human weakness. There ain't nothing psychic about that.
agreed.
But
Agreed.
so when someone has something bad happen to them, what
Mhm.
do you usually recommend is the best thing to do so they can open their minds and try to understand why these things happen? I mean, I am a huge believer in fate, destiny. Everything happens for a reason in my mind. I don't hold
Yes.
up to any divine entity of any name or anything like that. I mean, I'm agnostic, so I don't give
Mhm.
names to what I believe in. I just know there's something out there, but I can't prove it, so I'm not going to say anything.
I have to agree with you. I'm, of course, Roman Catholic by birth, and of course, I respect it as a tradition. But I also know that there is a lot more out there, and I think it would be very close-minded to not look at it the way that you look at it. Okay, so let's define something bad, because there's a couple of things that could be potentially happening. First and foremost, I'm a strong believer that if you are on your soulful path, and some people call it soul path, soulful path, life contract or soul contract, and something that appears to be negative happens. Notice I say appears to be negative. And I say appears to be negative because when you're a good soul, and we're good souls, nothing happens by accident. It is there to not, to heighten your awareness so that you can, evolve spiritually. It's not there to bruise you or make you feel, disheartened. And so you welcome and embrace anything that comes in, and be careful not to label it bad or good, because really every situation is there to help us heighten our awareness and evolve. Now that I've said that, I want to add that there are situations where there are patterns, so something bad happens, and then another thing happens again, and another bad thing, and someone tends to get into, this little bit of a downward slope, or a little bit of a cycle that they can't get out of. That is something that you have to pay close attention to, because that I consider to be an infection. I call it an infection from lower vibrational entities that are attempting to slowly break you down. Or there's an attachment. There's lots of attachments that I've seen in my business. So you really have to pay close attention to what it is. There is a big difference. When there's a pattern, you got to pay close attention to it. But when there is something that's happening, you've got to really, if it's one thing here or there, you have to really stop and think, okay, my soul is pushing me in the right direction. It might not feel good, but the universe is plotting to do us good. So there's two types of bad. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course it makes sense. And thank you, Donna, for watching. Appreciate you being here, all the way from Toronto. Ooh.
Very nice. Not too far from me, Donna.
Mm, well, there you go. Things
Mhm.
happen for a reason.
There you go.
A- And when these type of things happen that we label as bad,
Right.
is there a way to change what's happening? Like, is there a way I mean, basically, do you think there's a way to change fate, destiny, or
No. Sorry, I answered that super fast. No, you have to allow it. Life is about choices. We have free will at the end of the day. It is not just everything is fated, right? It's fated with also our free will. Now, the thing is, if something is fated and meant to be, free will or no free will, it finds us. So you might have to relearn lessons over and over, kind of like that movie Groundhog Day. I don't know. I start dating myself when I say that. It's a great movie.
I
But
just watched it recently.
yeah, isn't that interesting? And that's to me how I view, a soul contract is you'll keep looping, looping, looping until you get it right, and then you'll catapult forward. But the universe is plotting to do us good. There's no question in my mind about that, and there's no question in my mind that some things are just your destiny. Period. And with free will, we might take detours, but eventually it'll place us on our path. Sometimes when it's painful or feels bad is when the universe has said, I've had enough of you. I'm going to yank you off this path and throw you on the path that you're supposed to be on. So I'm a firm believer. I'm a firm believer that there is that element of destiny and fate.
Now, when it comes to say someone has a say someone has like a something they want to do, like a career they want to achieve, or if they want
Right.
to start a podcast, that's like their dream idea to start a podcast.
Hmm.
Is there a way to align yourself that this is what you're going to do? Like your soul's calling you to do this. Like, is there a way to make you like align all that up so it happens, even if
Yeah.
everything else is in your way?
Yes. I'm going to simplify it, because it really is that simple. It the soul comes with a compass, or a GPS for those the younger listeners out there, right?
Mhm.
And what is that GPS or compass? And that is our emotions. Our emotions are gifted to us for a reason. And so I lump some emotions in two bubbles, like the fearful bubble of emotions and the joyful bubble of emotions. And so the fearful ones are things like disheartenment or sad. Sometimes it could be anxiety. Sometimes it could be anger, but mostly things that make us feel uncomfortable. Self doubt. Those types of emotions. And then, of course, there's the joyful ones where we feel content and whole and peaceful and harmony and calm, right? And so the GPS, if we are in the right direction of our soul, we're going to feel any of those emotions that are in that bubble, as I call it, of the joyful emotions. If we are not feeling joy and we're feeling that discomfort or any of those emotions that are in the fearful bubble, category, we're moving away from our soul purpose. So that compass is actually, and those emotions are actually meant to make sure that we're on the right path or we're not on the right path. Unfortunately, the way that our society has been set up, it's a little bit mundane in that there is a lot of discomfort, like bills and, oh, how am I going to pay my bills? And, there's a lot of challenges around that. And then people do take jobs so that they can pay their bills. Like, they're not paying attention to that soulful compass. And we become comfortable with feeling uncomfortable, but that's not what is intended for us.
Exactly. Thank you, Donna. You enjoy the rest of your night as well and your week. Stay safe up there in the Great White North. Because, I mean, I live north enough. I couldn't live any further north, even though I might be moving to Maine or New Hampshire eventually, but we'll
Wow.
see. That's where my job is, so we'll see. But,
one, one step at a time. And Canada's nice. I'm from Canada. I'm in Ontario, and it's not snowy all the time.
no, I mean, I've been to Canada, so, I mean, I've gone up there on vacation before and whatnot, so I know it's not, and some of the towns up there are beautiful. I've been to a lot of the East Coast towns, and they're gorgeous, but just never got to like the Midwest of Canada or the complete Western reaches where it's
Right, right,
wilderness.
right. Well,
I
the
I, wa-
US
I
is
want to,
but you know what? I find the US very fascinating because you can drive and you'll have all 4 seasons in one country. Like you here in Canada, it kind of, the seasons go in the same way, but you guys are really interesting. So I love the US. Like I just think it's beautiful energy.
yeah, it is to some degree. I mean, it has its own terms of nastiness in the last few years, as every other country in the world has. But
Agree.
and I mean, there's good and there's bad everywhere. So I mean, I can't hate on it. The
Yeah,
U.S. is a good. There's a lot better place to live than a lot of other places in the world. I'll put it that way.
agree.
And
Yeah.
I'm grateful. I'm grateful to be born here. But please don't deport me. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I mean, I agree with what you said. I mean, because compasses usually point true north, and but in our lives, the true north can change if we want to bad enough. So
Yes,
it may go out of whack, and your north may change a little bit, but eventually you'll follow the compass back to the right way, and it'll lead you to where you're trying to go.
exactly. And sometimes we've got to allow and endure the difficult times so that we are better prepared for what is, waiting for us.
But how would people hope to run? I hope you come watch again too, Donna. It's nice to have guests that
Thank
comment a
you,
lot.
Don.
I love guests that actually comment. So nice to have you, or viewers to actually comment, I should say. But
Mhm.
either way, so the energies of the universe. I mean, do you think that they're sentient in a way, or do you think that they are just there to guide us, kind of like I don't even know, a spirit guide, kind of? I guess would be the best term I could think of at this moment. But
Yeah, there is no coincidence. There is no mistake, and it is very well known for centuries. Oh my gosh, in many cultures documented, we're actually born with guides. Some people call them spirit guides. I've dubbed them soul guides because they're here to guide our soul. We walk with loved ones. We walk with angels, and we walk with one of our guides is not a very nice guide. It's of the other world. So we do walk with many, and then there are what I call, because everybody's got like different perspectives on it. There's no one person really teaching us. So it's our own personal experiences. But I've noticed that guardian angels, in the way that I read energy and spirit, guardian angels can come and go. And sometimes they come when there's a specific circumstance, and then they leave when their work is done. And then another guardian angel will come in, to continue that path. And these guardian angels have selected us because of what they've experienced in this realm. So it's quite interesting. But we are not alone. We're not alone. Not to mention strangers that pop in and out. That's another story. But we are actually born with a set of guides.
yes, I mean, we've all heard the stories of guardian angels in our lives. Like we all have heard of stories of someone driving down a highway and they're getting tired, and a voice in their head just tells them pull over at this next stop and get some coffee or
Yeah.
something like along those lines, and they happen to avoid a major accident that happened because they did
Yeah.
that.
Yes. Yeah.
So I
There are
mean,
there are some incredible stories out there. There are some incredible stories. And like I said, there is no coincidence, especially, I know when you're doing paranormal investigations and even just in general in the paranormal world, um, there is nothing tangible. We're working on getting tangible evidence, and we're starting to get some tangible evidence. Our challenge is the bulk of what is happening is not tangible. So because we can't touch it, we have difficulty, placing value on it. But there are so many incredible stories out there where a simple whisper, or a stranger that appeared and then disappeared, did something life saving, for an individual. It's so reassuring to know that we're not alone.
it is. I
Yeah.
I mean, thank you for tuning in, Jen, and another Canadian. My God,
Ontario, another fellow Ontarian. Hi, Jen.
glad to have you. And
Love
no,
it.
if I'm popular in Canada, I have no issue with that. I got no issue with that.
You're gonna have to come up here then.
I will tell you, I have wanted to for a couple years now because I am a big fan of Trailer Park Boys, and I want to go where it's filmed.
Love it. Love,
It's
love, love it.
it's one of my favorite shows, and oh,
Mhm.
apparently Jen's from Milton. I don't know where that
Milton.
is, but I'm guessing you do.
Yeah, Milton is, west of Toronto. It's on the west end, just, a little further west of Mississauga. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, well, think synchronization, one of my
I
favorite topics in the world, and it happens for a reason.
agreed. Nothing is by accident. I'm gonna keep saying that throughout this whole this whole show.
Oh, I've done whole episodes on synchronization before with my guests because it's just the way it works out. I mean,
Yes.
actually, well, I'll tell you about that guest off camera because I don't want to talk dirty on camera about people. But
I look forward to it.
and yes, apparently Jen agrees with what you said about Milton.
Yes.
So I can't say I don't know where it is. I've never been, but I maybe someday. I don't know. We gotta go on a vacation eventually once I save up some damn money. I mean, as always, like you said, the bills are always the issues, and I just had a
Well, I think
I just had an 18-week-old puppy die, so the vet
oh,
bills were very high.
oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it was just meant to be.
Right.
He was born with misshaped kidneys, and it was meant to be.
And it
And
was also meant to be that you would be the soul that would care for, like, that it's not,
yeah,
that's not a mistake either. That puppy was not meant to stay in this realm. But how lucky that that puppy found you so that they could transition peacefully.
yeah, and cost me a bucket of money, but
Oh,
that's fine.
I know.
It's meant to happen. It's meant to happen, and the breeder's gonna give us a, for lack of a better word, replacement puppy. So I mean, so everything works out in the end, and
It does.
he's now in puppy heaven, as we tell the kids. So
Yeah. Oh.
and thank you, Jen, and thank you, Amanda. Oh, we did take good care of him. He was a very lucky puppy to be in my house all the time and get to pee everywhere. And
Mhm. Mhm.
yeah, I'm not getting into that part.
Oh.
But back on topic anyway. Is there certain methods we can use to make our soul like push us towards happiness? Like, is there, I mean, some psychics believe meditation is the best way to do it. Some psychics believe go see a psychic and they'll help you lead you down the right path. But is there
Mhm.
a way we can do it? Is there a way we can do it ourselves? Like, is there a way that anybody can do it?
Yeah, I'm gonna see if I can make it as tangible as possible, because those psychics that say meditation, they've got a strong point. What they're referring to is the right side of the brain, which is the intuitive and creative side or the energetic side of the brain, whereas the left side of the brain tends to be logical. And we tend to focus and spend the bulk of our mundane life. I'm going to call it mundane because we're constantly responsibility. So we're sitting in this logical spot, which makes it very difficult to channel anything. And so in order to hear messages or to practice receiving messages from our soul guides, it's important that we sit in the right brain. So now meditation may work for some people. For me, it doesn't work. I don't like sitting still like that. But the key is to still your mind. So you might still your mind by doing artwork or music or yin yoga. When I'm doing a lot of my readings, and I'm looking over here because I always have my pad right here. I have a sketch pad that I'm sketching, and it keeps me in that space. So when you're in the right brain, it's a lot easier to get into that theta or the alpha, brain waves, and it's easier then to hear the messages. So I wanted to take something that's a little untangible and try to make it tangible. If you're in that left brain and you're constantly thinking about bills and, oh, now I have to run to pick up the kids, or how am I, oh my gosh, now this broke and how am I supposed to pay for it? Or if we're worried about health, how can you possibly receive messages from the divine. It's impossible. It's like a busy signal on the phone, you know? So we have to hang up that receiver, you know, clear our space and welcome, you know, the messages. And the easiest way is to slip into activities that turn on the right brain. Like I said, painting, you know, those adult coloring books. That's a great way to meditate without actually meditating. You know, my daughter got me hooked years ago. At first I was like, what the heck is this? And then we started doing it. It was so weirdly calming that I got hooked. I got hooked on it. So there are little ways that you can do that. Taking what I call a forest bath. You know, some people go for a walk and everybody thinks it's all for cardiovascular health. Well, it's not always about cardiovascular health. You know, our energetic, our soul health is just as important, and it gets neglected. It gets neglected. So taking a forest bath where you're walking through the forest or through nature and taking the time to feel the energy, to feel the wind, the sun, you know, listen to the leaves rustling. It's amazing when you create that stillness in your mind, the messages that come through.
And apparently Amanda agrees. She colors all the time as well, and
It's the best.
she's addicted to it. Which, I mean, okay. The reason I'm laughing when you said that is because one of the first adult coloring books I ever saw was given to my mother for Christmas by my cousin, and
Oh,
it was called Animals Humping.
oh, that would totally distract you from the mundane.
Yeah, I think my mom drew one. I think my mom colored one picture in it, and then she just said, "This is stupid," but I thought it was hilarious. But
That is funny.
but I do agree because I do have an app on my phone called Happy Color, and it's
Yes.
literally just pictures where and Amanda agrees apparently because most of hers are swear words,
Swear
but
words. Oh, I've seen the one with the swear words. They're hilarious.
and yes, Amanda does love her swear words. If watch anybody wants to listen to that, listen to our show, The Sip List, because the sip lips that we do in the beginning sometimes are pretty damn funny. But
That that is funny.
and there's a lot of swears in them as well. But yeah, I mean this app Happy Color, I love it because it's just you can pick random pictures or you could pick like X-Men, Spider-Man pictures, and you can just sit there and you pick a color and you define every like little piece with a number in it. It can be challenging at times, but it clears your mind. Like you can just I can sit there if I do it before bed, like laying in bed before I go to sleep, I'm spending an hour freaking trying to color a picture in it. It's like, oh crap,
Exactly.
now I'm going to bed late. Crap.
Like that,
But
but that's okay. And that's okay. Because if that's what your soul needed, I think it's important. You know, we talk a lot about mindset, right? Because again, we're going back into the left brain and the logical side. And when it comes to success and going places in your life in the direction that you want to go and manifesting, you know, we talk about mindset. Well, let me tell you something, Jeremy. I think all of us have a strong mindset. I have yet to meet a person that does not have a strong mindset. So if mindset was the only thing that would cause success, then we would all be making millions. But the reality is that there has to be, you know, a good, strong mindset. There has to be a good, strong body set. There has to be a good, strong heart set. And there has to be a good, strong soul set. And I learned this from Robin Sharma, who's a great speaker, and he was talking about having a balance in all of those. And in all of my years and everything that I've ever done, you know, if someone is in physical pain, it's difficult, you know, to function. Like if I throw out my back, which I hope never happens again, but how do you function? How do you succeed with that pain? It's impossible. So therefore, you got to take care of your body set. If you have a broken heart for whatever reason, how can you focus on succeeding? You know, it becomes very difficult. And then if your soul is never nourished and you're never listening to it, again, it's going to be very difficult to move in the direction that you intend for your life. So we need to really nourish all four of those aspects of our life. It's extremely important.
I agree. And as someone who has been heartbroken and someone who has felt
Right.
that they're I mean, and as someone who's felt soulless before because they feel there's just nothing they were supposed to do. Like there's just you have to try to find ways to heal these things. And yes, alcohol can help, and so can other smokable things, but they're only
Right.
temporary measures. They're not permanent measures. So
Right.
you have to try.
Agreed.
you have to try and move past those and find the real reason why the real way to get past all that heartbrokenness and all that soulfulness. Like it's just the way it is.
And
Which
very,
for,
very well
for,
said.
for me, podcasting kind of healed my soul because I found out more about the world that I didn't know existed, and it made me question things more. So, I
Yeah.
mean, there's always something for somebody. You just got to find what it is. That's something I've always believed. I mean, I just didn't know what mine was for 33 years until I started podcasting, but
Yeah.
eventually I found it. It took time, but I found it.
And good for you for listening to that, because I think that's the key is when the soul speaks, we have to listen, even if it doesn't make sense. Like if it doesn't make logical sense, you have to trust that quiet voice that's inside of you that's making you feel compelled to do something. And it could be as little as a coffee. I really feel compelled to have a coffee before my meeting. But then what happens is the left brain starts to override and say, well, wait a second, I can't have a coffee now because I'm going to be late for that meeting, and that's not going to look good. And then you ignore what your soul is saying to you, right? But instead, you got to trust it. Go get that coffee. And every time I use that example, everybody says, oh my gosh, I did that once and I wasn't late for the meeting, or the meeting was late. Like you just have to trust the whole process. Don't let logic override those quiet whispers of your soul. And when you listen to the little ones and then you listen to it get bigger and bigger and bigger, and then suddenly you're listening to your soul and your soul is guiding your path. It's quite magical when you get to that point.
Yeah, I mean, it's the little basically little vibrations. That's the best way I could put it.
Yeah.
It's like the little vibrationals of energy that you like tell you to do things like before a meeting for work. I'll say, all right, I got 5 minutes to the meeting. I'm gonna go smoke a cigarette really fast
Right.
because that's gonna keep me more focused during the meeting. I mean, yeah, it's a horrible habit, blah blah blah, but I don't. I've been doing it for 15 years, and I'm not gonna go yell at anybody that does it. But it's just the way it is. I mean, sometimes you need those little things, but
Well, what works for one may not work for another, and we have to not judge anybody for whatever it is that they feel compelled to soothe their soul in that moment, right? When you honor it, and it might not be in alignment with who you are, eventually your soul will take over and move you towards what is in alignment. I know a lot of people that have smoked. It helped them get through very difficult times, and today they no longer smoke. It's whatever works. There's no judgment, right?
well, like that song says, when I'm a millionaire, then I can quit smoking because I have no worries. But 100%. I mean, well, stop smoking cigarettes. The other thing I'll probably smoke till I die. But yeah. But how do you think? Because people say like to have success, you need to have a good job, a nice house, have money. But really, like, how does the soul affect success? Like, how does the soul like make us get there more than anything else?
Well, it's one of those things that if you are passionate about what you're doing, it never will feel like work, right? So when you're doing your soulful purpose, it's an enjoyment for you, so it doesn't feel like work. And so then you'll be able to do it forever, and you'll do it better and better as time goes on, right? We only run into trouble not when we're working within that sweet spot. We run into trouble when we are doing something because we have to do it. Like there have been times in my life where I've worked because I had to work. I didn't like the circumstances that I was working in, but I did it. A single mom with two kids. I did not have that opportunity in that moment. But the soul understands that. And as soon as there was a moment, it showed me that way. And I started moving, and now I feel very blessed when I say that I am actually on my soul's path. I know that there's going to be some bumps and bruises every so often, but I just know that I'm on that path because I get up and I feel excited about what I'm doing. I was looking forward to doing this podcast with you. And this is how you know that you're on the right path. But there's times where it's hard to get out of bed, and it's like, oh, now I got to go in, it's Monday. We all resonate with that. Doesn't matter who we are. That's when we know we're not on our soul's path, and that's when we have to pay close attention to that. And I would never, ever recommend throwing caution to the wind, and leaving everything and then, switching. Although I have seen some people do that and it worked very well for them. There are people out there that are not able to do something like that. And so what you want to do in that case then is create with your soul an exit plan. So I'm going to exit this life, guide me, this is where I want to go, and I'll take the baby steps to get there. So it eventually will shift you over into the right space. When you give it that energetic space, when you hold space for that, it'll work, and it's very natural, or it feels
See,
natural.
I 100% get that because I've been working for the same company for 2 years, actually over 2 years now, and
Hmm.
basically, like, I started working for them. I got promoted within 3 months.
Right.
The division I was working for got shut down, and
Oh.
I got demoted back to being just a grunt basically, and I did that for almost another year to the
Right.
point where, but then so, a friend of mine who I trained back when I was promoted passed away. Sadly, he
um,
was only he was only in his 50s, so I mean it was a sad thing, but him passing opened up a position, which I then spent a month trying to get, and I got it, and
well,
now I get to do what my soul want, my heart, my soul wanted me to do, and I get to work from home, so I can work on my podcast while working a job. So, I mean, everything just kind of came together because when I was working in the field as a grunt, I just didn't have time to like do
right.
as much podcast work as I wanted to. But
Right.
now I can work on podcasts all day, and I can get them on multiple platforms all day, and it's just and it helps. Like everything's growing, and I'm able to do
Right.
great at my job because I'm less stressed because I'm home all the time. So
Well, this is it. And you see how the universe has maneuvered you around so that you
yep,
can, you can focus on your soul's path. I find it interesting. Like my honey, when I first met him, he was almost embarrassed to tell me that, he had run a couple of businesses and then the businesses didn't work, right? So he did computers and then he didn't like it and he moved on to something else. But he did construction, he did snow plowing and landscaping, and he did a few other things. And he got criticized by family for not sticking to one thing. Well, today he's a very successful, owner and operator of a pizzeria here, and he's an internationally, award-winning pizza chef. And everything that he learned, so the computers, the construction, all of it led him to this path today. And all that skill set is everything that he needed for today. He got something happened with his lease. His previous landlord was a jerk. It was a terrible situation where he ended up having to move his business in 2 weeks. Well, the only way that he was able to move his business in 2 weeks is if he rebuilt his own restaurant, and that's what he did. So we have to really trust that. Even, I like how you called it grunt work. Like that grunt work, for whatever reason, is in there to build a skill set that your soul is going to need. Maybe not today, but eventually. And so everything is perfect. We just got to allow it. It's when we attach labels, that's when we get ourselves into trouble.
yeah, I mean, you have to put yourself out there. You can't stay stuck in one situation forever. You have to try to find a way out. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're stuck in a riptide, you can't swim forward, you can't swim backwards. Swim sideways, and you'll get out. Like there's
Right.
always a way. There's always a way out. I mean, wow, that was actually a good metaphor, and that just came to me.
Love it. Awesome.
but but all right, so I'm gonna switch it up a little bit here because I saw this on your profile on Podmatch, and I'm like, what is that? I've never heard that term, and I'm dying to. I mean, I think I have an idea what it means, but I'd rather just hear it from someone who knows what it means. A Clair-Audient medium. What
Yeah.
is that?
Well, it's there's different clair senses. There's clairaudient, there's clairvoyant, clairsentient. There's about 8 of them out there. Clairvoyant is the one that they tend to kind of label,
Yeah,
psychics with, right? And so clairvoyant means seeing, being able to see. I hear whispers. And clairaudient means hearing whispers, right? You hear sounds or whispers. So that is what I hear first, and that's how spirit communicates with me first. Then the other senses kick in. Like then they'll show me things, or they'll make me smell something, or I'll feel how they passed away. They make me feel certain things, or but clairaudient is where you are hearing. So you're receiving senses through hearing. Does that make sense?
It does, because I've actually had a spirit talk to me, like in my house I live in, that I bought and I live in now. So I can kind of get to that. I mean, they only said thank you, but I mean, I can understand what it means to be like, hear the whispers, because it was like a whisper, and I was the only person in the room that could hear it out of like 2 investigators and me in a room. So
Right.
I do that to some degree, but
Yeah. I think all
these
of us have these abilities. It just depends on which one is a little more dominant than others. And also depends on then how we're called to use these abilities. The interesting thing, because that whisper, if someone was doing like, EVP or something like that, they probably would have caught it. I was doing a paranormal investigation one time, and EVPs were going all over the place, and I heard this whistle, and then all of a sudden I said, "Oh my God, did you guys hear that whistle over there?" And two of the investigators were like, "No, we don't hear that." And one of the other ones, she heard it. The best part is it got like we got it on the recording. So you hear this whistle, and then you hear me say, "Did you guys hear that whistle?" It was so interesting. So they are communicating with us. How we're able to hear or see, it's so fascinating. I really hope science catches up fast and helps us out with this.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be a while, I think. I think science has a lot more things nowadays to worry about than that, but
So
I know there are paranormal scientists out there that are working on things,
they
and
are working on it. Yeah.
but hopefully the government doesn't get involved, because that's how you get Stranger Things. But but
I'm going to zip it on that one.
I don't like the government involved in anything paranormal, because they lied to us for 60, 70 years about aliens and UFOs until they decided to admit it during COVID to distract us. And
Yeah,
then no one paid attention because of COVID. So,
of course.
oh, actually, that's a good question. Do you think animals have a psychic ability?
Yes.
Oh, I mean, well, they definitely do, because funny enough, my wife just went in the basement to change her laundry before I came on to do this show, and our dog followed her down, and she went to the corner of our basement where like the water heater is and whatnot, and all of a sudden she runs back up the stairs
Yeah.
and refused to go back down the basement. She's like, she saw something. She saw or sensed something down there, and she did not want to go back in that basement. And they used to stay in that basement all
Yeah.
the time, and they would, at night when we put them down there, they'd bark their heads off like something was down there and they couldn't
Are
get to it because
picking up on it.
they're in their crates.
Yeah, they're seeing things. Animals probably have a better ability than we do because we're accompanied with logic and emotions, right? Whereas
Yeah.
animals may not have logic the same way we do. And so they're able to see it. My dog barks at nothing. And usually he likes to do it when I'm at home alone and I'm in the country. So it's like not not fun. My cat, my cat will sit and stare at things very intensely. What's interesting about my cat is when I'm doing readings and spirit has walked into the room, my cat will walk around like to say, "Are you safe in here?" And he'll come hang out with me. They're very fascinating. See, Amanda's cat too. Yeah, they're very fascinating. Not all animals, it depends on. I think it depends on how calm the animal is. Like
Yeah.
my dog is half Shih Tzu, half Poodle, and so he'll have moments of high intelligence and moments of where he's super excited about things. And when he's super excited, he doesn't see nothing. He won't even see human. So when he is in that calm state, he sees. He's very protective. Often he sits and he's protective of me, and I don't even know what he's protecting me from because I don't see it, but he can clearly see something. But it's fascinating. Animals, I find them very fascinating, and they're important. I think they're important to have around, especially if we do this work.
See, I mean, and with my puppy that just passed, like, my wife felt like for days that like she could
Mm.
smell him, and
Yeah.
like he hadn't been in the living room like that often that much in like a week, and the
Oh,
carpet has been clean since then. So she's like, I wonder if his spirit is here, like if he followed us home and like he's
of
running around.
course.
And I don't. I mean, animal spirits, I have a hard time believing in almost because yes, they have souls, they do. I mean, I'm sure they do,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, I mean, yeah, all dogs go to heaven. We've all seen the movie, but
Right.
it's just, I don't know. I mean, and I feel like you'd be hearing like phantom barks if you, like a dog followed you home.
It's interesting because I have do animal spirits come through as often? Well, maybe they do, and we're not recognizing it. But I know that I was doing an audience reading one time, and you get your group of people that are really into what you do, and then you get this a group of skeptics, right? Now I respect skeptics because I'm still skeptical, right? And I remember doing a reading, being pulled in a certain direction, and I looked at this woman and I said, oh, you've got a male on the other side, they're trying to come through, and she's going, nope, nope, I don't have any male on the other side, nope, nope. So wait a second. I said, let me get you a little more validation. And I'm looking. I said, oh my God, I'm having a hard time seeing his face. And then I could see the energy, and I'm going, oh, wait. And I'm looking now down because the energy took me from here to down. And then all of a sudden I see this dog. And I just said it to her. I said, oh my goodness, it's a dog. And then the woman starts bawling her eyes out. She said, yes, my dog died. And I was able to validate. So we can, and they do have. Let's not also forget that there is reincarnation, and sometimes our pets could be someone else's soul, and they're just in the shape of a pet. So they're interesting. They're interesting. I like what Amanda was saying, that her dog was in the cot. Was it her dog or her cat that was in the closet for like 2 days staring?
Her cat, I believe,
Yeah.
I'm not. I mean, I'm not 100%
That's
sure on that,
always
but
fun.
well, yeah, I can't see it. Yeah, I was gonna say a cat because I can't see a dog hanging out in the closet for 2 days
Yeah.
because
A
dogs,
cat
dog,
I can see more, that's more likely. But it's always, you know what, even though we do this work and we're familiar with it, there's still that element that spooks us, you know? So when I see my cat staring, at something, and it's like, oh, I had a suspicion about that spot. Or, my cat will sometimes stare at antiques that we brought in the home. And that's like, sometimes that's interesting, you know?
yeah, which actually my wife's been asking that a lot lately because when we got this mastiff puppy that just passed away, she thought it was her old dog, Ty, that she
Right.
thought it was him reincarnated because they had the same spot on the forehead. They had like the same little stripe of white fur. Oh, this one had white fur. The other one had a different color, but and it was just they acted the same. She said.
Right.
I never met her. I never met her other dog, but I mean,
I would be inclined to say your wife is correct, especially if she's feeling that energy. You know, I mean, we're built with this ability. Someone once said to me, "Oh, you've got this gift," and I said, "Well, no, I'm not gifted. If I have a gift, then that implies that I'm better than someone else, and I'm not. I have an ability, no different than someone else has an ability, and my ability is going to be different. And I can't do, what you do, Jeremy. Like, everybody is perfect in our own way, and their abilities and how we get called to do these abilities. But I do believe that there is a sixth or maybe even seventh sense. It's just, I don't know why it got stifled, because I think way back people used to pay closer attention to their intuition, to these other senses. They were a lot more in tune than we are today.
yeah, I mean, well, back in the day, there was a lot less distractions. I mean, they didn't have TV and a
Yeah.
thousand different apps to watch TV on
Yeah.
and video games to play and they usually worked when they got home from work. I mean, back in the day, there was even before TV, it was just either listen to the radio when that existed, or read a book, or do things with your kids if you have them. I mean,
Right.
spirituality was huge in the 20s, 30s, 40s until World War II. Then it stopped being as huge. But
Right. Right. Right.
I mean, it go spirituality goes through patterns all through history where in between wars it gets big and people start questioning things, and then
It
a
does.
war takes your mind off it for a good 10 years. But
Yeah.
it's just the way history went. But
Yeah, I totally agree. I don't know. We'll see what the future brings around this, but I think there's more. Going back to the perfect name of your podcast, it is becoming more normal. You're seeing all kinds of people. Like when I look at my clients are not what people would expect. These are business people, educated people. Some of them are politicians. It is interesting. VPs of banks. Very
well,
interesting.
it's funny you say that because I always like to say Abraham Lincoln was into spiritualists, and
Yes,
his wife would hold seances, and he would in the White House he would go attend them,
and there you
and
go.
he truly believed in the afterlife. He truly believed that spirits could talk to people, could talk to spirits. Like
Yeah.
he was a big, and he actually had a spirit warn him not to go to Ford Theater that night, and
Oh,
he didn't listen to it.
and oh,
And his wife actually saw it happen, like in a vision, and he wouldn't listen to her either. He just said, "I'll be fine."
right. Well,
Which,
that's where it's destiny, right? What we
yeah, I
were
mean,
talking about earlier. Can't change destiny.
which is why he hunted vampires. I love that movie. I love that freaking movie. But I like I
Awesome.
like I love weird twists on history like that. Like
Mhm.
I still have to watch The Man in the High Tower, but
I love it.
I do love alternative history like that.
That's awesome.
But uh, one last question. Well, okay, I'm gonna end it with this question because I asked every psychic medium I have on my show this question. Many of the people I've talked to have said that they believe there's a spiritual awakening going on in the world,
Yes.
and that I've had multiple psychics now tell me that it started in 2012, which always leads me back to the Mayan calendar. But because the Mayans maybe weren't predicting an apocalypse, they were predicting an awakening of sorts.
Yeah.
But I've also had other ones tell me it was like for the last 5 years. So, what is your opinion on that?
I never paid attention to the actual timing that it happened, but if I go back and remember when I first noticed it, it would have to be in and around 2012. And what I had said at that time, I found it was so strangely interesting that we were finding each other. Before it was like, people practicing or doing things in solitude, afraid of being judged. And then all of a sudden it was like, the gates had started to open and we were finding each other. And I'm noticing that now are we not only just finding each other, but we're congregating and we're sharing information, we're becoming stronger, and there is a lot more of a collective where there is a strong understanding and acceptance of, I'm going to say, this world, this paranormal stuff. I have to agree that there is an awakening. Not everybody will wake up. I'm going to say it like that. Not everybody will, but that's not their destiny. So it's interesting. I'm very curious to see what happens over the next couple of years because we keep being pushed into situations like COVID, where you're seeing a divide. You're seeing, people. There's a division happening, and we're seeing an awareness heightening. It's quite interesting, and to me, I find it very reassuring. I feel comforted by that.
Yeah, I mean, I see until I got into this, until I started the show, I never realized it was happening because I mean, and then as this show started happening, I started talking to more and more people. It started happening to me in a way, and
Mhm.
I mean, it did happen in this episode for like a few minutes here and there, but just, I don't know. I mean, my mind may be elsewhere today. Maybe that's why it's not working. But 'cause I did have to go in the field today and do some grunt work, even though I'm a manager. But stuff happens, so I go and I do it with a smile. But I mean, so I don't know, but I do feel like an awakening is happening because more and more people, I see more and more psychics, and clairvoyants and everything else posting up on Facebook now, tarot card readers and all that. They're all
Mhm.
posting up on Facebook now, like saying their services are available. And you never saw that 10 years ago when Facebook first started. Like you never really saw that. Like it maybe once in a great while. You have to join groups to see it. So
Yeah.
now it's just
Exactly.
now it's just girls I went to high school with. They're like tarot card readings tonight. I was like, really? Okay, never saw that coming. But it's just I love it's the world's changing, and I think it's
It
changing for the
is, it is.
better.
There's a different acceptance. There's a more acceptance. And I have to say, I was one of those that feared being judged. And so I did it very quietly for many, many years. I sat in a certain group. I also like I run a couple of businesses and I enjoy that. And each business that I do is all about empowering and helping others. And so I run a coaching business and I'm held in high regard. And it's like, I wouldn't tell anybody about what I was doing. It was like, I'm this businesswoman by day and then psychic by night. It was quite interesting. What is also interesting is now I'm not feeling as concerned about feeling judged. And I'm getting that validation because then a lot of people from even that business are saying, "Can I book a reading with you?" And it's so interesting. Things are changing. Yeah, see, and look,
Yeah, go
Amanda,
ahead.
so yeah, no, Amanda's saying her daughter, is really into tarot cards. We're seeing this more with our kids too. Our kids are embracing it. But I think, Amanda, that has a lot to do with you. So kudos to you, mother to mother, because if she's feeling comfortable to do that, it means that you've given her that safe space to feel, safe to be herself and to explore that. So well done.
Yeah, and yeah, and her daughter's 18, which I know because she posted
Nice.
on Twitter. I knew that ahead of time 'cause she posted on Twitter a couple months ago. But
Yeah.
and Amanda, Chancey knows how to do that. So I mean, maybe reach out to him. He can maybe help her out a little bit. He did a live tarot card reading on my show a couple weeks ago. So
Nice.
he's my co-host for another show and a co-host for another show as well. So I'm a multi podcaster. It gets busy.
Oh, I
But
love it. I love it. Embrace yourself because you're just going to get even more busy. So,
I hope so. I have another idea for a podcast that's building. So
mhm.
my wife hates it, but she'll get over it. She'll get over it. I keep trying to tell her, find a hobby you want to do and embrace it. But
Yeah,
she doesn't listen. But if hopefully we're gonna start making puppies soon. So then she'll have a hobby to raise puppies and we can sell them. So yay, money.
that's beautiful.
Yes. And to give people mastiffs that they puppies, which mastiff puppies are the cutest thing ever until they get bigger and then they they drool over your house. Yeah.
That's too
But
funny.
and Amanda says thank you to you as well for that. So but all right. We will end this as we are a little bit over an hour at this point. But where can people find you? And I know you said to be off camera, you're starting a podcast. Please sell
Mhm.
yourself. Sell
Oh, I
yourself.
appreciate that. Yeah, I'm working on setting up a podcast that I'm going to be launching soon. It's called Soul Talk. And you'll find me on Facebook and Instagram under Scarlet Soul Cafe. I do everything and anything that will nourish the soul and get you guys moving on your soul's path. So I'm really looking forward to bringing this podcast as well. But yeah, it's my mission to bring peace and clarity. So I really look forward to helping others.
Which is the best thing you could do in this world. It truly is. I mean,
I mean, I've got a website too, but guys, follow me on social media because that's where you get the best. I put all kinds of free stuff on there. And from time to time I do free readings as well.
yeah, which I mean, it's always a great thing when people do that because I mean, as he said, and there, I mean, as a previous guest of mine says, Corby Mitlead, which I don't know if you know her or not, but she actually wrote a book called The Yellow Brick Road: A Guide to Psychics,
Oh,
and she
nice.
and it tells people how to tell if they're going to a good psychic or a bad psychic.
Oh, I like
Which
that.
a bad psychic is just one that's after is the bad psychic basically is the one who's going to tell you, oh, you need to light 20 candles in church this week, and I'll bless them all, but you gotta pay $60 per candle. Like that's
Terrible.
it. Yeah, those are the psychics I talked about in the beginning of the show that that's why I grew up with, thinking that because all the movies just showed psychics as carnival like side attractions
Yeah.
and stuff. So,
Yeah.
but I'm trying to dissuade people from believing
Entertainment.
that anymore.
Yeah, entertainment in some cases. And I've come across, some people that I've done readings, and I can't believe I'm not even going to call them psychics because they're not psychics. They're con artists, and I can't believe how much they charge people. One young girl, she was 24 years old, and she came to me. She was in such distress. She was a referral, and she told me about this other experience. And this psychic said that she has a weird curse in her stomach. I'm like, what? And if she doesn't remove the curse in her stomach, it's going to go into her father's stomach. And so I said to her, oh, I said, well, pray tell, how much to remove the curse? $2,500.
Oof.
How do you charge a young girl, 24 years old, $2,500? How do you do that? This
You
girl
don't have
that's in distress.
you don't have a conscience. That's how you do it.
I was disgusted. But there
And
are people out there.
I mean, honestly, that curse sounds like it's straight out of the Stephen King book, The
Like,
Thinner.
come on. In the stomach. Like, come on. Like,
I mean, that literally sounds like the Gypsy Curse and Thinner from Stephen King. So I think I know where that psychic stole that from. But
wow.
and yeah, people do fall for that shit, Amanda. They do because people are weak in their weakest moments. People believe anything. So
Yeah, they're vulnerable. They're in distress, and they're turning to us, for help. And that's what. Anyways, we got to take what we do with responsibility. Like people rely on us. So, anyways, yeah, there's a lot. So that's good that there's a book out there. I'll have to
yeah,
check it myself.
and as Amanda said, people want something to believe in, and that's
They
true. I
do.
mean,
They do. Amanda, you're right. They do.
if their soul is unnourished and they want just something fast to believe in to make them feel nourished for that minute, then they'll believe
Exactly.
in anything. I mean, and just you can't do it that way. You can't. I mean,
Um,
I've fallen for some tricks like that, but I mean, nothing that bad, thank God. I would never
yeah,
had
I
no
don't.
money to do for that.
Well, this is it. But I don't think anybody is immune to any of that. I think we've all had those weak moments, or there's those vulnerable moments where, someone took advantage of us. I don't think anybody is immune to that.
100%. But Scarlett, I thank you for coming on. This has been a wonderful episode. I can't wait to come out, and it will release in about a month. I have a lot of recordings out there ready to go out, but I'm backlogged, as Amanda always says about her podcast. But
It has.
so
Well, it's been a delight to sit and chat with you and your listeners, and thank you so much for the invitation. And keep shining. You're
of
doing an
course,
amazing job. You really are.
I appreciate it. And as all my listeners know, you can find me on Facebook as Paranormal New Normal / Maniacal Music Musings Podcast with the S group, on Twitter and the Gram as at Juggalo Bastard, and on TikTok as at Juggalo Bastard Podcast. Paranormal shows coming soon. Almost done with the music ones. And on YouTube, just search Paranormal the New Normal, and you'll see all the videos of shows that have been released already. You don't get them early. I may set up a Patreon and do that eventually, but you don't get them early yet. So it's maybe coming. If you want to give me a few bucks here and there, we'll see. But once again, thank my guest Scarlett for coming on. It's been an amazing show, and I can't wait for everybody to hear it on podcast form as well. And
Thank you.
please check out her podcast when it comes out.
Thank
Which
you.
what was the name of that one more time?
Soul Talk.
I like that name. Check
Thank
it out, people. And I will see my watchers in about 45 minutes from my next interview. And my listeners, I will see you in about half a week. Thank you for listening and watching. Have a good night.